Hey y'all, how's it going? It's Sway, and we are on our next minion type. We're talking about dragons now. So dragons got a little bit of a rework. It's kind of interesting because we know how important Caligos was at one point, and then how absolutely irrelevant Caligos was. No offense, Caligos. But dragons getting this rework has been really interesting, so let's talk about it. Okay, so as usual, before we talk about the new things, let's talk about what's leaving. First, we have our tier 1 dragons, Chromawing and Red Whelp leaving. I did really love the Red Whelp. Like, I truly enjoyed the Red Whelp. But dragons overall kind of removed that, like, pew-pew ability because Red Whelp is gone, Atromedes is gone, which we will get to. But on tier 1, we're losing our Red Whelp and our Chromawing. And then on tier 3, we are losing our Nether Drake, but kind of similar as the low flyer, not quite, but I can see where these attack buff dragons like Chromawing, like Nether Drake, don't really have a place in this build anymore. And spoilers, as I mentioned, Atromedes is now gone, which Atromedes was one of my favorite minions, like in the meta. With the shield removal, I think it's a very useful tool. I really loved Atromedes, really sad to see it go. And last but not least, we have Razorgore also leaving, which I feel like, I mentioned this in a previous video, I feel like maybe it makes a lot of sense because of the end of turn situation. But also, I mean, we've seen Razorgore in metas with end of turn situations, so not 100% sure on that one. Maybe it also just didn't quite fit the mold here. It is a dragon that gains stats without any battle cries, and most of the new minions are pretty much more battle cry focused. So that being said, let's talk about the new guys. Our first new minion is the Upbeat Front Drake. This is one of those upbeat end of turn situations. At the end of every 3 turns, get another random dragon. Feels pretty good. It is a 2-1 on 1, so it's definitely probably not going to win the first couple battles if that's what you're looking to do. But a random dragon's kind of sick, and it is Tavern tier locked, so if you get it on turn 1, after 3 turns, you'll get a random dragon. So assuming that you won't be on 1 anymore at that point. But the economy seems pretty nice. I feel like the random aspect of it could be kind of bad, but also with this rework, getting a random dragon doesn't sound like the worst thing. Next, on tier 2, we have our low flyer. This is at the end of your turn, give +2 attack to your minions with less attack than this. So that works kind of fun with the Whelp Smuggler, and kind of interesting with keeping the low flyer's attack at like higher than everyone else's. Even with that +2 attack, you have to still maintain the buffs on the low flyer. But that feels like it could scale pretty quickly. Coming to tier 4, we have Stormbringer. After a different friendly dragon gains attack, this also gains it. So it is different friendly dragon. It can't be the Stormbringer itself. But it seems pretty good to like be even like a Terragosa board. If you're doing Terragosa promo Drake things, feels pretty good to combo with that. Overall, like I feel like this could definitely be a snowball piece as well. I feel like I wouldn't be heartbroken if it wasn't on my final board, but I really like it. And even just comboing with like Amber Guardian and Cyborg Drake, I think that's also fantastic. On tier 5, we have our Sanctum Rester, which is a start of combat effect of giving your other dragons +8 health. This, again, immediately I think of Terragosa because start of combat, health. Terragosa keeps that health, but overall keeps your dragons very healthy because we've seen a lot of attack buffs, not a lot of health buffs at this point, outside of, you know, comboing with a Whelp Smuggler. So I think that's going to bring a nice little balance. On tier 5, I feel like eventually it might give a little bit less health and move down to tier 4, but it may just absolutely be nutty, and it feels like a pretty good piece to keep on your board in the long run. Also on tier 5, we have our Disco Shuffler. This is a choose one, interestingly. Trigger a friendly minion's battle cry or discover a battle cry minion. So just based on what you need from this minion, whether you already have your Caligos and you want to discover another battle cry to get some value there, or you can just trigger another battle cry if you have something that you already like the battle cry of. For instance, the Electric Synthesizer, who is a battle cry of give your other dragons +4 attack, another new minion on tier 5. So that overall wraps up all of our new dragons coming to Battlegrounds. So what does this mean? How is this changing from what we know of dragons right now? I think that there are a few different major dragon comps. We're looking at like a Terragosa promo or Terragosa with the Trickster, the Health Demon. There's Terragosa promos or combos with a lot of things. Eliza, who is leaving, but there's that like kind of mid-range dragon comp, and then there's that end game dragon comp. with Kalecgos, although I feel like Kalecgos is probably the least important part of that. I feel like it's more of like, honestly, a cyborg Drake comp where you have a bunch of divine shields and you have these really nice cyborg Drakes that give that additional attack buff. And we, of course, in the buddy meta are seeing some crazy conditionals of people finding all of the Caligeese, all the geese, as Alex Straza, you know, playing the buddy, getting Kalecgos, and then more Kalecgos, and then more Kalecgos. Of course, that's something that I have attempted many a time. But yes, this is going to be very, I think it's going to be very helpful to add some value to Kalecgos. And I'm hoping that maybe it makes Kalecgos just a little bit more relevant. I think overall we're seeing a nice just shift to a very specific gain in terms of attack and health structure. I really, really like the new minions. My initial impression actually was not very impressed. I'm not going to lie. I didn't really initially, when I was looking at all the new cards, like where dragons were going. I think that may have been a little bit because I was salty about Atromides. I cannot help it. I love Atromides so much. But I do think that there is going to be a good amount of stat gain no matter which way you play. I think that there are enough important dragons to make something work, whether you find all the pieces or maybe just one or two pieces and then move into a build eventually, or there are some that just combo amongst themselves. I think that this is going to be a really interesting dragon meta that I'm very excited to play. Glad to see that shield is still very relevant with dragons. And, you know, having Atromides to remove those shields could be a reason why that feels a little bit bad. So I'm glad to see these shields really prevalent. I think that it'll be fun trying out all of the different things that I think dragons will be capable of based on how these minions are going to interact with each other. Now, of course, speaking of shields, in terms of what dragons will be good against, we're looking at Venomous, of course. Venomous is great because, you know, you have these minions that on that first hit, that Venomous happens. However, if it hits into a shield, dragons are safe. And additionally, with that like Sanctum Rester, getting that health and just being able to outlast a lot of minions here and those battle cries that we have available to us, I think that it will be really, really great against Venomous or just really large builds in general. You're looking at elementals. Mech is going to be kind of a toss-up because Mech, of course, is also very shield reliant as dragons are, and there's no shield removal outside of like a Tunnel Blaster, which of course would hurt the dragons as well unless you have an Adina in a very strategic spot, which will give you that leg up on Mech. Of course, in terms of large minions, we're also thinking Pirate, we're thinking Quillbore. And then what it may not be so good against is that Beast, that Undead, that summoning situation. Especially Beast and Undead, because these are minions that scale and grow over time. Undead specifically over time, no matter where the minion is. But Beast specifically, when that comp, you know, just gets to the end of the comp and then those beasts just get really, really large, like an unfortunate Leaper comp with like a 500 rat or something insane like that, because I know we've all seen that. So those initial shield hits go into things that you don't really want them to go into, and then when these really large minions happen, unfortunately those shields aren't even there, so the dragons do take those hits. So Beast, Undead, probably not the best situation. Now, of course, I think it goes without saying what heroes will do well with these. Ysera being able to find a dragon on every roll is just the best. Alex is a toss-up based on what you discover when you go to 5, but also a lot of the really high-value dragons are 4 and up, so I do think that that's going to be a thing as well, unless you're just playing, you know, a Skyfin build, which I love a Skyfin build, but I don't think it's going to be nearly as good as what we've got to offer here at 4 and up. And I mean, in addition, we have a lot of just really strong heroes that, of course, would do well with this. I specifically thought of Hook Tusk after using one of those battle cries, being able to destroy that minion on a higher tavern tier, discover on just one tier below, and get the battle cry effect. I think that's going to be really helpful with the battle cry synergy that's coming to Dragon more so. And of course, in terms of heroes that are not so good, similar to the line of Beast Undead, any hero that summons lots of things and then wants to continue to summon things and buff things that are summoned or kill things, not great, probably not great. I mean, Tamsin, if you have just outrageous stats, Tamsin just can't be bad unless there's a lot of removal on your opponent's board. So in that way, Tamsin could still be okay. But I'm thinking like Greybow, like those heroes, of course, are not going to do as well with dragons. Now, I'm not going to lie, I stared at this. I stared and stared and stared at these minions, and I cannot think of a meme off the top of my head, which is crazy because I feel like memes happen more regularly for me than like finding a good strategy. I just find meme strategies. But if you know of any memes coming for dragons, please let me know in the comments. And otherwise, we will see you tomorrow for our next minion type deep dive. Thanks for watching. Bye, everyone.